Coping with Tre Tailor, giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we'll always be coping with something. Coping.
Hey there, and welcome to Coping. I'm Tre Tailor, and we are giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we will always be coping with something. Today, we are coping with more of our series on Happy Holidays, Less Stress. Today, exes, co-parenting, and blended families. We've got Lori and David Sims that joins us. I'm sorry, I just had a little brain fart there. Lori and David Sims joins us from Nacho Kids. Thank you guys so much for joining us again today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll be joined a little bit later with our other two guests. But first, let's go ahead and get into our community updates. The fire marshal is reminding people about fireworks safety this New Year's weekend. Check with officials to make sure fireworks are even legal where you live. Be extra cautious in dry weather conditions. Now, of course, only use fireworks outside under adult supervision. Keep water close by in case of fire. Keep kids away from fireworks. Read and follow the directions carefully, and only buy fireworks from legitimate retailers. Now, never experiment with making your own fireworks. Light them one at a time, and never, ever carry fireworks in your pocket. Don't shoot fireworks from metal or glass containers. Don't place any part of your body over the fuse when lighting. And please don't point or throw fireworks at people. You can call 800-898-7712 for more information about injury and violence prevention for fireworks. Whatever you do, wherever you go, have a safe and happy New Year's Eve. The city of Columbia, South Carolina will hold a special election in District 4 to fill the seat now available with the passing of Joe Taylor. We told you about that yesterday. Election day is March 28th with January 13th. Filing opens, filing closes noon, January 23rd. Voters must be registered 30 days prior to election. So you've got till February 27th to go ahead and register to vote for the March 28th election. If there is a runoff, that will be held on April 11th. Now, you can visit scvotes.gov to register to vote or to check your voter's registration. And as you think about your New Year's resolutions, the Red Cross needs you. The almost 2,000 South Carolinians who volunteer include those who help at blood drives by greeting people, registering, answering questions, transportation specialists who deliver blood, and people who provide emergency response to local disasters. Now, anyone at least 13 years old can volunteer. For more information on volunteering for the American Red Cross, visit redcross.org/volunteer today. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID testing, vaccinations, and COVID vaccinations, testings, and flu shots in and around South Carolina. Visit scdhec.gov for more information. Now, scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you will see information about a myriad of things, including where you can get your 5 free rapid self-tests, COVID vaccines for vets at the VA, the various retailers, not only in South Carolina, but throughout the country that offer COVID vaccinations and testing, including Kroger pharmacies, CVS, that includes the CVS located in Target stores, Walgreens, and also in Columbia, South Carolina, at the Comet Bus System at the corner of Sumter and Laurel Street. Not only can you get a free COVID vaccine and test, you can also catch the Comet bus to get a vaccination. Now, also scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you will see financial information, which includes the FEMA COVID funeral reimbursement, SC Bar Association, and SC Legal Services. They have a toll-free number for rental and mortgage help. Lexington County Bill Assistance, SC Housing, and Dominion Energy both have a rental and utility assistance program. And if you or someone you know is having a challenge coping, the South Carolina Department of Mental Health has a 24-hour assistance line called SC Hopes. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping, hosted by me, Tre Tailor. We're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life because we'll always be coping with something. We are streaming live on the TailorMade production page on Facebook. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. Find out when we go live Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council, and also on Thursday and Friday. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. Please go over there and hit the subscribe button. There you'll find 3 years of information, interviews, and also resources to help you cope. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Facebook. Well, today we're coping with exes, co-parenting, and blended families. It's part of our Happy Holidays Less Stress series, helping you identify and alleviate the stressors that are associated with this time of year. Lori and David Sims joins us from Nacho Kids, and they've joined us before, and they're here again. Listen, I don't know what happened to our other guests, but you guys are here, and we're going to roll with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's called sabotage.
Well, you say sabotage, though, and some families may feel like sabotage is involved when you're trying to blend families during this time of year. And I know that's what you guys teach and preach and coach on. I want to ask first, what do you tell people in your family? Do you owe your family, your extended family, an explanation about why everyone may or may not be at the family gathering?
With us, when my son wasn't with me, say Christmas Eve one year, and we would go to David's grandmother, they would just say, "Where's Jackson?" And I would just say, "With his dad."
Yeah.
And that was it. I don't think you owe anybody an explanation, but it can get to where people want to argue with you about it. Well, you should have had your kid and he should and it just turns into a mess. So sometimes it's just best to say with his dad and then stop in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have that conversation before you even go, David?
In some cases you can, if you know that's going to be the case. I know a lot of times when you're doing the planning part, everybody's trying to figure out, when do you have your kids? Because it depends on your family dynamics. We happen to be the only blended family on my side. So I'm the one that has the problems with working around sometimes. So, they're asking me, when do you have your kids? When do you have Lori's kid? And so you try to plan that, but sometimes that's not something you can do. And you just have to go with whatever it is. And we just come to the point where we've told family, plan whatever you're going to have and whoever can come comes.
Right.
And that's, we can make arrangements internally on our own family, but expecting other family members outside of just our immediate family to arrange around all that, especially when there could be multiple blended families on all sides, it's not going to happen most of the time. And so you just have to lower your expectations of what you want to happen and just do with what you got.
Yeah. Yeah.
And internally with us, we've actually had Christmas, for example, a week before or a week after, because we wanted to have all the kids together. That's not always the case. We don't have an hours kid. If we had an hours kid, I don't know that we would wait till everybody could be together to do it. But since we both have kids from a previous marriage or relationship, then we would just wait till we had everybody together.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because I'm sure it changes if it's you, me, and yours, mine, and ours.
Yes. Yes, because you don't want your hours kid to have to fit their life into 50% of the time that you have the other kids.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
So when is the best time to have the conversation about holidays when your family is blended? And let's talk about when to have the conversation with the kids and when to have a conversation with your exes.
I don't converse with my ex.
Okay. Well, then that's that.
Well, we have found, and this is true for most blended families, they're an ex for a reason. And it's rare that people get along after they've split up.
Yeah.
It's best if there's a court order in place to follow the court order. Most court orders, especially in South Carolina, they alternate holidays. So I would have my son the week before Christmas one year, the week after Christmas the next. And it's best just to stick with that schedule. Don't ask for favors because it will turn around and it'll get hairy.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, David? Do you converse with your ex?
I would say more so than she does, but I had the same kind of end result in that when I would work with her to say, let's change some dates here and there, almost always it would end up, blowing up in my face at some point. And then it became oh, well, but I let you do this during Christmas. And so you need to let me do this during, vacation time or whatever. And it becomes problematic. It's easier just to stick with whatever the schedule is, try not to vary from it no more than you have to. But all that depends on the relationship that you have with your ex, how the kids are. And then, if you're involved in another relationship, like for example, I didn't care that much that I was working with my ex when I was single. When Lori and I got together, you got more complexity, you got more people involved. I have to consider what's going on with her and her kid. And so now all that changes. It became too much to deal with. And so it was just better to go by the court order and stick with that.
Right. We're talking to Lori and David Sims from Nacho Kids. It's Happy Holidays, Less Stress. It's our series to help you deal with the various stressors that come particularly during the holiday seasons. And of course, today we're talking about exes, co-parenting, and blended families. You guys said that the best thing to do as far as planning is to stick with the court order. What do you do if there's no court order in place? Because people may not
get one.
Right.
And we can have a whole show on that of what needs to be in that court order because you don't want gray areas.
Yeah.
But if there is no court order, unfortunately, the non-custodial parent is usually at the mercy of the custodial parent.
Yeah.
We have seen good relationships. We've seen where everybody gets together on Christmas morning and sings Kumbaya, like they're just one happy big family. But for the most part, that's not the case. And it ends up being where the custodial parent says, well, you can have little Johnny from 12 o'clock noon to 6 o'clock p.m.
Right.
Well, that's not really fair to the kid. And that's what we get into a lot is the disdain for each other outweighs the love for the kid a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, I want to talk about is how do you navigate how to help the kids? Because, oftentimes it's unfortunate, but the kids are in the middle of the situation and holidays, which are supposed to be ho, 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 ha, 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 holly jolly, jingle bells and happy can get pretty, uncomfortable. What do you tell your kids?
I think it's important that you let your kids know that they can always come and talk to you about anything. Now, granted, if my son came to me and said, I don't want to go to my dad's for Christmas, do I really want to risk contempt of court for that? Or do I just explain to him, which I did. I explained to my son from a young age that there's a court order that says what he has to do and he has to follow it. It's his law. And so we just explained to them that the other parent wants to spend time with them and the judge has said, this is the time you get with your dad or whatever. Or if there is no court order, it's as simple as your dad wants to spend time with you too, or your mom wants to spend time with you too. It'll fly once you get over there, time will fly by and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the question that you asked earlier, which I don't know that we really touched on. And the question you asked was, when should we have these conversations?
Yes.
And the answer is well before the event.
December 25th, right?
Exactly. Well before. As a matter of fact, I would say, sit down as early as possible and say, this is how every single event for the entire year is going to go, or for the entire relationship even. This is how we're going to handle these things. And then bring that to the kids and say, look, this is how we're going to handle holidays and this is how we're going to handle birthdays and all, because this is the situation we're in. A lot of times the adults are the only ones that are dealing with differences because kids often grow up in these things and they're like, they don't know any different. They've never had the options of other things. Right. And so it's usually tougher for the adults to deal with all the changes than it is the kids because they don't know any different.
Yeah.
And I will say the first Christmas that I didn't have my son Christmas morning, my heart broke. It was so sad. I was crying. I was miserable. When I got him back, he didn't want anything to do with me. And come to find out, he was tired. He'd been up all night. He spent the night at somebody's house he wasn't used to. And who knows? I mean, at that age, he could have thought that I made him go.
And I was going to ask you, did he not want, was he distant because he felt like you had abandoned him, or?
I think that was a lot of it, because it was the first time he had been gone for a week.
Right. Yeah.
And he was very little at the time, and he would just look at me and say, no. And my dad actually came by, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just a mess. But that's when I realized that this is what it's going to be like. And it stinks. It really stinks. There's nothing I can do to change it. But what I can do is still have those Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve traditions, even if we have to shift it a week or so.
Yeah.
Because if not, you feel like you're missing out on something.
Yeah. Yeah. Lori and David Sims joins us. They are with Nacho Kids. They have a website and a initiative where they give information, advice, tips to how to have a blended family. And they even do some coaching for families to have a successful blended family. When we come back, we'll talk more about exes, co-parenting, and blended families during our Happy Holidays Less Stress series with Lori and David Sims with Nacho Kids. I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping. We'll be right back.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
Hi, I'm Judy Gatson. As a news anchor, wife, and mom, I know how important it is to take care of our health. Part of taking care of our health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is a serious health condition and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. It's estimated that more than 1.3 million South Carolinians have it, and up to 90% have no idea. Take a moment to visit inittogethersc.org to take an online test to find out your risk of prediabetes and how to join a diabetes prevention program that takes the guesswork out of losing weight, eating better, and being more active. You can learn new ways to stay healthy and sustain those changes over time. When you join, you'll even get support from a trained lifestyle coach to help you set and achieve realistic goals. Go to inittogethersc.org, brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina.
Thank you so much for joining us on Coping. I'm Tre Tailor, and we are streaming live on the Tailor Made Production page on Facebook. Please go over there and hit like and share and follow. Find out when we go live Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. And then, of course, on Thursday and Friday. We've got also streaming live on the YouTube channel. We would love for you to subscribe to it. Please go over there, hit the subscribe button, and check out 3 years of information, interviews, and content to help you cope. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. Today, we are continuing our Happy Holidays Less Stress series and talking about exes, co-parenting, and blended families. Lori and David Sims with Nacho Kids are here to have a conversation with us. If you're just joining us, please hit the replay button, hit the rewind, because they've already gave some great information that if you have an ex, if you are co-parenting, if you have a blended family, I'm sure you have experienced it. As David said, we just kind of got out of Christmas, but we still have some holidays to come that are going to involve the kids. So, this series was specifically to help you navigate through those, kind of hairy times in your life and help you not be stressed out about it, because that's the goal, right, guys? That, these situations are going to come up. So do what you need to do early so that you can enjoy the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to what we were talking about earlier about having those conversations, that goes into every area of your relationship. If you when you start talking about things like holidays, one of the stressors of holidays is not just getting together, but it's also around, what are you buying the kids? And is there a difference between how much you're spending on your kids and how much I'm spending on my kids? And
how much your ex is spending on your kids versus what you're spending on your kids.
Yeah. And it can become a comparison if you're not careful. And then now you got financial conversations that you're fussing about. So all those things, going back to when you should talk about it, all those things should be figured out well in advance.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to bring up, comparing homes and the holiday. And so that brings up the other conversation. Should you talk to your exes about, this is what we're getting little Johnny and little Jane for Christmas?
Well, Trey,
talking to them, of course, if you are conversing.
Yeah. Well, no, that can go one of two ways. And we've seen this happen where the parents, the ex-parents, we'll call them the ex-parents, have a pretty decent relationship. And one of them says, well, I'm going to get little Johnny this dirt bike for Christmas. Next thing you know, the other bio parent went and bought the dirt bike and gave it to him first. So be careful. You know your ex. You know what they're capable of. I would never be so specific as to say I'm getting him a dirt bike or whatever. I know one time you had talked with your ex about getting a PlayStation or something like that, so she could get games for it, maybe. In situations like that. But you got to be careful, because man, they'll burn you any way they can.
Yeah. And oftentimes too, though, sometimes we wouldn't allow things to be taken back and forth between houses, because it creates problems. They take it to one house, it gets broken or missing, or they leave it there, and now they want you to drive 30 miles to pick it up because they left it. And so we would just say, and oftentimes, look, you're just not going to carry it back and forth. So if that's the case, then if the ex buys them the same thing, then okay, then they got one at both houses and you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Yeah. I'm again, taking things back and forth. I love the idea of have duplicate things in each house, so there won't be an issue with, dragging things back and forth. What do you think about the ex getting the other children gifts? Should they or should they not?
Meaning like David's ex getting my son something?
Yeah.
That would be weird, but
okay.
If we had a good relationship, if I had a good relationship with his ex, which I don't really have any relationship with her, I don't talk to her, not because I hate her, but we're separate, she's the ex. But if you have a good relationship, I can see that, because you don't want to exclude kids. And that's one of the things,
and that's my point.
Yep. That's one of the things with the Nacho kids parenting is you don't ever exclude a kid and hurt a kid intentionally. Don't bring McDonald's for all the kids, but not one. That's wrong. That's just wrong.
I don't know if you guys saw that. There was a post about that several months ago where a dad came and brought his child. The mother had children from more than one father. The father brought his child McDonald's, and the other two children were standing there like, can I get a fry? You know what I'm saying? So, and that was a big thing on social media. Was he right? Was he wrong? Is it his duty obligation to get something for all the kids?
There's a fine line between parenting and adulting. And he failed adulting is what he did.
Yeah.
I think it depends. I'm gonna weigh in saying it's a fact specific determination, because if I go and I'm bringing my kid a Happy Meal and there's two other kids there and I know they're there, I might choose to do that. Now, if I'm bringing my kid a Happy Meal and he's at a baseball game and there's 40 other kids there, I'm not buying 40 other kids a Happy Meal.
Right.
And, or, let's say I take it and the two kids are there, that's part of my ex's house, but they got all these friends over or whatever. Now, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where if you want to do it and you feel compelled to do it, absolutely. Being obligated, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's David Sims. He and Lori have Nacho Kids. They do Nacho Kids parenting. If you have a question or need some guidance or information about co-parenting, they've got a great website and coaching program. You can see their information on the screen. Lori, you mentioned that you don't really speak to David's ex, but should you become involved in your ex's conversation when it comes to the kids?
In the beginning, I was very involved, very, very involved. And it caused problems because if there was some kind of disagreement, I felt like he should buck up to her. Well, he knew her better than I did, and he knew it would do no good.
Right.
And in fact, it may make things worse if he did do that. We found this to be the case in most situations, where let him deal with his ex. If he has information that will affect me or my child or schedule changes or something like that, then yeah, tell me. But I don't need to know every time that they talk, or I don't need to know every detail. It seems to convolute things when that happens.
Yeah.
That's a big problem that we see, and it's common as well, because if I don't want to deal with my ex, and then all of a sudden she comes in and she's like, "Oh, I'll deal with her for you, so you don't have to deal with that." My initial reaction is fantastic, but what we tend to see,
and I was like,
right, and that may not be your ex's, ideal situation. I don't want to deal with her. I don't know her. My relationship is with you, not her.
Yeah. But what we tend to see, though, is when and I'll typically say women that do this, when that happens, usually a year or two down the road, the lady is now saying, "Wait a minute, I don't really want to do this anymore. This is too much, and I don't want to be involved in it. And I took on something I shouldn't have done." And they really regret it a lot of times.
Yeah. I want to bring in, we had talked about family in the last segment, but I want to bring family back in, because I know there have been situations where, maybe a family member has invited the ex to a family gathering, and then everybody comes, and then here comes someone who's been invited by whoever's home that is, but there you guys are. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the ex, and how do you deal with that family member? Because, you can't say or tell them, dictate who they can invite to their home.
Right.
Sometimes the ex will invite themselves.
Yeah. We see this a lot and this has never happened with us, but for example, if David's family invited his ex to a get together, graduation, whatever.
Right.
And again, like you said, you have no right to tell them who they can invite to their home.
Right.
The best advice I can give you is give the person the common courtesy you would a stranger.
Right.
But if there's a lot of back and forth that's been going on and restraining orders and crazy stuff, and bio mom walks in the house, leave. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where it's going to erupt and get you in trouble or make you look like the bad guy at the event.
Yeah,
right.
That's when you have to have those conversations with family to say,
yes,
these are the guidelines to which I will be here or not be here. I'm not saying you don't have to have a relationship with that other person. Just understand I can't be here during that. So, you'll have to decide what you want to do with that. But these are the guidelines I have in order to be there and take part.
Yeah. And again, so you say this, obviously, not only before the event, but prior, I guess, during the breakup or at some point, you have those conversations with the members of your family that are hosting certain events, right?
Yeah,
right.
Certainly if you think that's a possibility. If you don't think it's going to be something that happens, but then it does happen,
right?
Then have the conversation afterwards, not in the heat of the moment when everybody's tension and anger and all this is, don't do it. Just like she said, leave and then come back later and say, look, let's have a conversation about what happened.
Yeah.
And then figure out how you're going to handle that moving forward.
Being in a blend is a lot like living with Murphy's Law.
Yeah. Right. Because you don't know what might happen. That's right. The thing. You just don't know. And speaking of which, I'm thinking about a graduation. Something, you can't reschedule a graduation. You can't have it, the graduation is when the graduation is.
Yes.
And everybody's going to want to or should want to come to the graduation.
Yeah.
Do you sit on different sides of the auditorium. I mean,
Well, I want to tell you a story real quick. My son, his dad made the comment one time about, don't think we'll be playing Happy Family at the basketball game. And I said, well, I'll tell you right now, I will tell my son to go to you first, because I didn't want the child standing in the middle of the basketball court going, what do I do? I'm going to hurt somebody.
Yes.
And there were many of times that we had volleyball games and basketball games with his kids, and there wasn't like sitting on opposite sides because there was nobody on this other side. It was a small school. So we would sit, I don't know, 5-10 feet apart sometimes.
I mean, close enough to say, so you could say we were sitting together, but weren't necessarily together, but it was just close by. You know, I never, like she said, I never wanted to put my kids in a position where they felt like they had to make a choice.
Exactly.
The good thing about public events, though, is oftentimes the other person is kept in check just because they don't want to seem like the bad guy.
Right. They don't want to act a fool out in public.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. And so you
Sometimes.
yeah. I mean, I've been in places where I've sat beside my ex and we've done things together and, you know, like watch the ball game together or something like that. As together as you can, you know, be just sitting side by side. So again, it was just something that we weren't there to do anything other than participate in what my kid or kids were doing. And that was the focus. It wasn't the focus on the email that I had sent the week before or the backlash I'd got last month or the fact that you haven't paid me my child support or whatever. It was always, look, we're here to watch the kid play a game, watch the kid play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lori and David Sims are with Nacho Kids. They have their Nacho Kids Parenting Institute. Please log on to their website for information, advice, tips, and of course, they also do coaching. We've been talking about co-parenting, blended families, and exes on Happy Holidays, Less Stress. Lori and David, thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you for your insight and advice, and thank you for the work that you're doing in our communities throughout the country, just to try to bring peace. Because these are things that happen. There are going to be exes. There are going to be exes and blended families, co-parenting. So we've got to learn how to handle it in a mature way so that our kids aren't infected or affected. But as parents, and as adults, Lori, you know, you said it's a difference between being a parent and an adult, and that's so true. We sometimes we need help with it. So I appreciate what you guys are doing in this space. Thank you so much for joining us today on Coping. I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. So listen, if you have a story or initiative that can help someone cope, please email Josephine at booking@copingwithtretatailor.com. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope, please email copingwithtretatailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping. Other sponsors include Javis Financial Services, Palmetto Media Connections, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, also Agape Counseling and Training Services, Black Pages, Black Expo, the Comet Bus System, and Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. Next Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council, health messages in unexpected places. We'll talk with the folks from the South Carolina State Fair. They've got health messages there. The Comet Bus System, where there are health messages there, and also Black Expo. And then Friday, we continue our Happy Holiday Less Stress series and talk to some members of the LGBTQ community, how they cope with having sometimes uncomfortable situations with family members at holiday or any gathering. That and more coming up next week right here on Coping. As always, I leave you with a spiritual reading. We've been reading from a Jesus Calling for several years now, and we go back and forth in different things that we read. Today it says, I'm leading you along a way that is uniquely right for you. The closer you draw to me, the more fully you become your true self, the one I designed you to be. Not me, but Jesus. Because you are one of a kind, the path you are traveling with me diverges increasingly from that of other people. However, in my mysterious wisdom and ways, I enable you to follow this solidarity path while staying in close contact with others. In fact, The more completely you devote yourself to me, the more freely you can love people. Marvel at the beauty of the life intertwined with my presence. Rejoice as we journey together in intimate communion. Enjoy the adventure of finding yourself through losing yourself in me. That's your Jesus Calling for today, Friday, December 30th. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take care. God bless. Happy New Year. And please be careful out there. And if you're going to be in a close quarters, please don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. Happy New Year's. See you next year.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success, for improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive. Ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do. 6 ways to a better you.